of borings specified in the original contract? It doesn't seem
So
like a very good representative sample for that amount of square feet.
That work would have been done prior to the development of the specifications.
Okay.
Prior to bidding.
Fair enough. Mm-hmm. And the second question that I had is, I mean, I know this school is going on, 20 years old, a little bit over 20 years old, but wasn't this identified when they put the original, and Abe, you wouldn't know this, but shouldn't this have been identified when they put the original parking lot in, that it was inadequate soil? It's more rhetorical, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we did look at those reports because it was relatively newer. The engineer, when they looked at the original soils, it indicated, good tight clay. But with cracking, fortunately, I was a roofing and paving coordinator for some time with UPS. So with time, as you get separation of asphalt, water gets in, there's no surface area to evaporate, so it pools, it stays, it permeates into the substrate, into the CA6. And after 20 years of that water just sitting, getting in through the cracks, it does soften the soils beneath it. And so it can change the condition of soils over time.
Okay.
Hey, Douglas, I would like to, just for the future, I'd like to see an explanation from Erickson Engineering and how this was handled or mishandled. We just have to.
I agree with you, 100%.
Yeah. And in the future, I mean, I'd like to hear that because I hold them kind of responsible. But there's nothing we can do right now on behalf of everybody else. We have to move on. And I agree with Abe that GeoGrid would be a good thing to do at this time. I'm just not happy with how you missed 49,000 square feet. I mean, that's impossible.
It doesn't seem like a representative sample. The other, Russ, I completely agree with you. The other comment that I have is next week, and this is completely personal, but I'm going to be in the middle of nowhere without cell phone service. So I'm not going to be able to attend the board meeting. So I don't want this to not pass because of that. So.
No, I'm okay with it. We don't have a choice. We can't leave our parking lot the way it is. And
Abe just said that 6 people on the board have to say okay.
3/4.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay.
3/4. Sorry. Okay. 3/4 of quorum.
I'm okay with it. Don't have a choice.
Of course. Me too. Okay.
Douglas, just real quick.
Yes.
The board meeting isn't till June or July 30th, so not next week. It'd be the week
July
after.
30th. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Are you still going to be out of town then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
The same thing all week. So
yeah. That's what I meant. Okay. I support.
Okay, so thank you very much. It's less than ideal, certainly not the first action item I wanted to bring to you guys, but appreciate the support on this. We will move forward under the understanding that we will be able to pass the resolution here in 2 weeks in order to stick to schedule and to not let the site be exposed to any further terrain.
Abe, would it be possible that we could ask the other board members at this time what their feelings are? Maybe Jay, Amy, and Aaron could give us a feel for what they think before we move forward. Would that be possible, or is this even appropriate?
I think comment would be well received right now. Their feedback and comment on the situation.
Okay, great. Thank you. I would think it's important that we know before we spend more money. I'll go down the list that I have in front of me. Jay, do you have any comments that you want to make?
All I'll say is that it sounds like it needs to be done and that there's a bit of explanation that I guess that I would agree with Russ as well that I would like to hear. But, this is something that we have to do now so that it is done well and that what we're actually working on is well maintained.
And thank you, Jay. Is there anybody else besides Kathleen? I don't see anybody else.
Amy? Do you have?
Yeah, I'm here. I would echo what Jay just said. I mean, I don't know if there's a way out of this, but it's one of those uncomfortable conversations I think that needs to be discussed.
The last board member would be Erin Westphal, and we would need to hear from her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little disappointed that they only did 2 boring holes, judging by by the area of the parking lot. I mean, I know it is what it is. I think we have no choice. It's frustrating that of all years of having to deal with this, we're doing it this year, but I like the GeoGrid idea. It's only $30,000 and it may save us millions later. I'm down with that.
Thank you, Erin, and I agree with, I'm for it as well, so thank you, everybody.
Okay, so we can move this forward to the board meeting, and then, but they can move forward now to mitigate any problems with exposure.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Anything else on construction, Abe?
Nothing else on construction at this point. Just another matter as it relates to transportation. We're working with Durham to identify different scenarios for the fall. Everyone's aware of how things progressed with them last year. As this is their last year as it relates to a renewal, I want to have early conversations before we get too far into the year to have a good understanding, given different scenarios, different situations, what the expectation is and what we're prepared to do in return for their services.
Okay.
Those discussions are ongoing.
Okay. Moving on to the Lake Villa agreement.
Yes, just a bit of background as it relates to TIF. For those that just may need a quick refresher. So it evolved from improvements, project improvements for the general public to one that's more initiated by developers. It can be effectively used to improve generally blighted areas, keyword being generally blighted. And unfortunately, the definition of blightedness is sometimes used loosely. It's defined loosely. And the way TIFs work, property taxes that would have otherwise been paid towards taxing districts would be redirected to pay for their development bonds. Analogous to you as a homeowner, the property taxes you pay every year to Lake County, instead of it going to Lake County, it would be redirected to pay your mortgage. In essence, that is a mechanism. It's far more complicated, perhaps intentionally. The financial burden of services used by a TIF is shifted to the rest of the community. They will benefit from fire. They will attract residents depending on the size of the TIF and development. And unfortunately, there isn't an offsetting revenue to the taxing districts. There's also the question of equitability for competing businesses and developers in non-TIF areas. I can describe a quick example in Vernon Hills. Melody Farm restaurants are doing very well. They have the advantage of being in a TIF versus restaurants across the street have declining sales because they're not. And so the question of equitability between competing businesses comes into play. So specifically our TIF, we don't have an agenda noted on the website for Lake Villa. They do have a meeting on July 20th. I don't know what the agenda is just yet. I'm monitoring it. The other districts that are coordinating with us, they feel we've made our point. Ted Johnson wrote a critique of their TSCA eligibility study. That study was sent to the village as well as the village's attorney. Key thing was that the village now has to redo their public hearing. Apparently the notice in the paper wasn't properly completed. Perhaps on July 20th, that is when they'll have another public hearing. So within the IGA itself, there's some positives. It is limited to 15 years. It would have otherwise been 23. And we will share in 50% of the increment from day one, what we would have otherwise gotten. And roughly speaking, at 50%, this district would be afforded about $10,000 a year approximately. If it was 100%, it would have been $20,000. District 41 is presenting the IGA for approval on July 20th, and 117 has already approved it back in June. So one thing that I found interesting, as long as one entity approves the IGA, the increment would have to be extended to everyone. So I will verify this again. We do not necessarily have to sign this agreement. They can't pick and choose which taxing district would benefit from the IGA. It's all or none. So that is the update on the TIF and the proposed IGA. Any questions related to that?
Anybody have any comments?
Abe, would you recommend I mean, I think it's pretty clear the board is not pleased with how they have done business here. Do you recommend we not sign it?
I want to verify that just once more, but you know, it is a board decision to make that you know, decision to sign it or not. I can tell you that, as I've been informed, if we don't sign it, it doesn't exclude us from the benefits of the IGA.
So it would be more of a symbolic kind of a gesture than anything else.
Correct. And there's a number of entities that I don't believe intend to sign it either that are on that list. There's several.
But it's just to, sorry if I could follow up real quick.
Go ahead.
Anything further that we could do to stop it would be litigation, right?
Correct. That is the only next step for us at this point. You know, having exhausted other avenues of making our point. And the other districts that were coordinating with us, my sense is they don't have that appetite to take it to litigation when you look at it from a cost-benefit analysis. And so that wouldn't be recommended at this point. Thanks.
Abe, I guess my question is, and I've talked to Milko and Kathleen about this, so if I miss something, you guys can pipe in, but I see in here when I'm reading this that I wouldn't sign it, by the way, if I was the president. I let Kathleen know that. I know it's probably going to go through, but I wouldn't sign it. The other problem is 15 years to me is too long anyway. We got burned by that with Walmart, who then moved out after that TIF was done. But my problem is it looks like Lake County government by themselves were kind of left off of this. They weren't really, it says, representatives from taxing districts other than Lake County were present after the presentation. It sounds like they have purposely left Lake County out of it. And and I told Kathleen and Mikkel about this, I would like to see us send some type of letter to Lake County expressing our opinion on top of, have they seen this agreement? If not, we should send them a copy. I think for some reason, looks like to me that they were kind of left out of this discussion. Now, on the other hand, they've been busy with COVID-19, and so probably this isn't the top of their thing, but I think we need to sound our voice out to Lake County, because Lake County does kind of oversee everything on top of all of our villages. So how they were left out of this, tell me if I'm wrong, looks not right to me.
Yeah, they have a fairly explicit position on this. In my previous experiences with Lake County as it relates to abatements and TIFs that I've been involved with, their position is one where they're not involved whatsoever, against or for. And so perhaps that is the reason for it.
Yeah, I just like to have them notified from us and our dislike and what was going on. They don't do anything, they don't do anything. But I'd still like to have, if we can, I talked to Mikkel about this, just give them a heads up.
That's good, Russ. I agree with that. It solidifies our position and makes it on record. I think it was the thought of the 3 committee members, you know, not to sign this, but I am interested because this is a community, you know, kind of effort. If anybody else has any different feelings than what they voiced before of the board members. Kathleen? Anybody?
Because of my position, I'm going to wait to hear from everyone.
Fine. Jade, have you changed your position at all?
No.
Okay. Any other board members, if you've changed your position, can you unmute?
I haven't changed my position at all. So I think we missed my understanding was that there was going to be another hearing, and I think we missed it. So, or they just did, anyway. So.
I don't think they had the hearing, Amy.
Well, I think that was the July 20th supposedly coming up, but
it seems like they're moving on anyway.
Right.
So how you can't move ahead. That's what Abe said this week too. So I looked at their website and it seemed like they had a hearing on June 29th. And then they still put this forward July 6th, which isn't 14 days later. Anyway, or it's going on their agenda now. So maybe that's the 14 days. Anyway, I don't, maybe they are doing a special hearing, but it seems all of it, their procedures are very strange and seem to be opaque. And my position hasn't changed.
Okay.
Way of saying that.
I do believe we can report this to the district attorney.
I still have that, and I think we should.
And I'll be honest with you.
I will go ahead and do that. I'm going to be spending a little time next week, and it'll be quieter, and I'll take care of that. And I'll run it by, I'll make sure that people see it beforehand.
I've done that in the past. Usually they don't want to deal with it, but at least I felt good when I have reported stuff like that from a government that hasn't followed.
If nothing else, my thing is mostly to just encourage good governance. It's not to do gotcha stuff. That's all.
I agree.
Mhm.
We can play nice.
Erin, do you have any comments?
No, just I haven't changed at all, and obviously if we're talking about, a $20,000 property tax bill, obviously, we won't sign it, and that's that.
Okay. My position on this is that I will follow the recommendation of the board. I think there was a lot of anomalies about this. I'm very uncomfortable with it. I think it sets a very bad precedent. And I'm really glad that the board has made the decision that it has. If they are having an upcoming meeting, I'm hoping that, Amy and Erin, if you're in town, that you can go. I think Douglas C. will be out of town next week.
I'm sorry, in 2 weeks I'll be out of town.
In 2 weeks, if you're going to be there, I do think we should have some representation. I think you guys should think about it beforehand. I know that Amy and Erin had already, talked about this a little bit. So if you guys want to get together and come up with a game plan, I think if you read through this agreement, there's enough in here there's lots of talking points. So I'm sure you guys will pick them all up. Alrighty, I'm done with it.
Okay.
One more question, Douglas.
Of course.
Abe, did you say we would get 50% now instead of using the whole 100% of the taxes? We would get 50%, so it's only 10,000 compared to 20.
Correct. We did some rough math with the attorney. That's exactly what that would be then, just half of what would otherwise be considered new construction at 100%.
Russ, if I could jump in here, there is a precedent being set here because of the unusualness of what they've been doing. So I think there's a reason that we should still oppose it.
Oh, I agree.
I think that's a very bad. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify that because I heard him, and I just wanted to clarify what he said. I agree. I'm all right with it. I mean, what you're saying. I oppose it, but I wanted to clear up what he said in his presentation.
Okay. All right. Okay. The 2021 budget draft. Second draft, I'm sorry.
Second draft. Thank you very much again, Douglas. So got some preliminary information to share with you as it relates to our fund balances, where we're projecting to end the year, although June has yet to be reconciled and finalized. I've got some rough numbers, as well as I can review some revenue and expense assumptions for next year. The challenge is, as the plan changes, so does our budget. Just a reminder, our budget's an estimate. It allows us to plan financially for revenues and expenses for the year. I wanted to spend some time educating on accrual basis because that is how our audit is conducted. It's on an accrual basis. Some of our internal functions are on a cash basis, and just really quickly wanted to demonstrate the difference. So on an accrual basis, essentially what we're doing is we're deferring our June payment into the following year. That's the biggest difference. Some of the expenses paid out 60 days afterwards, after the year ends, would be then accrued back, such as a major project being finished by June 30th, but the bill's still rolling in. It would then be accrued back to the previous year. And so just to demonstrate the difference, that's our fiscal year going forward. And that is the previous year. We got our June payment and our September payment. So on an accrual basis, we would take our June payment. If you're on a cash basis, this June payment would apply to the previous year. On an accrual basis, this June payment applies to the following year, to the new year. That is the position most financially healthy districts take. It is essentially a prepayment for operations for the following year. Those that realize this payment in the previous year have a bloated fund balance, one that isn't reflective of how much cash reserves they do have. It is possible to have a very healthy fund balance if you're realizing this in June on your audit, but you may actually be negative or very low in the months of April and May. And so this is a trend of our fund balances from 2013 to 2019. The different fund balances are represented with different colors, educational fund being the biggest. And as a percentage of our expenses, we've been relatively flat through the years at 39.2 for years 2018 and 19. We have just started our audit for 2020, so we'll be adding that on once that's completed. So at about 21 million on an accrual basis, that's our fund balance. We have about 4.7 months worth of expenses. ISB guidelines require us to maintain 3 months worth. Projecting where we're going to end for the year, you can see that we started the fiscal year at 23 million. We're projecting to end at 31 million. Where did all that come from? How did we increase so much? Primarily from the working cash bonds that were then deposited into the capital projects fund. You'll notice O&M on an accrual basis was negative. We should end on a positive end. We need to reconcile debt services and correct that, along with tort. That is also negative on an accrual basis, something I very much look forward to addressing. So some additional background as it relates to property taxes. If you look at property taxes on a per student basis, you will notice that we're at $17,616 per student. The average in Lake County is $18,000. My peer group is all 10 high school districts within Lake County. And you can see we're just below the average overall. Some of the additional elements I want to stress is that it's the product of EAV minus tax rate. That's what results in property tax revenue on a per student basis. You know, as a district, we have one of the lowest EAVs on a per student basis, and that results. That's a result of many things. One is similar homes having different valuations in different districts, along with the presence of varying commercial and industrial EAV as well. So we have some of the lowest EAV on a per student basis. As a result, we have a higher tax rate than the multiplier of which results in dollars, which is $17,616 on a per student basis. Adequacy as it relates to state funding, we are at 73.6% adequacy. It's tier 2 of 4. The tier 1 cutoff, if you're interested, is 67%. Some of the most challenged districts are in tier 1. We're in tier 2, not too far off at 73.6%. Another way to look at it, we're essentially operating on 73.6 cents on the dollar. And this definition of adequacy, it's defined by core investments, such things as class size, percent low income, the FTE for instruction, core intervention, special ed, regionalization factors. I really appreciate the work that was done for the evidence-based funding model. It really does a much better job of defining an appropriate amount of investment to educate our students. So it's enlightening for me to see that, you know, as a district, we're at 73.6%. The state strategy is to hold these districts harmless. Their state revenue will be held flat. It will not increase. And the design is the increases they would have gotten are going to be redirected to Tier 1 and Tier 2 districts. Warren, 121 is at 67 beneath us. 117 is above us at 84. Mundelein at 90%. They're operating on 90 cents on the dollar as defined by the core investments. So moving on, looking at our operating funds, you'll notice that 2/3 of our revenue is property tax driven. I don't intend for you to read the graph, rather just see the trend. We've almost doubled our state and federal revenue from 2013 to 2019, increasing our state revenue, decreasing the reliance and dependability to a lesser degree on local property taxes. And so budget assumptions for revenue on an accrual basis, the money we'll be receiving in June and September, it's a function of last year's levy, which is a function of 2.3%. That was the CPI last year. The CPI trend right now this year, it was actually a negative number a couple months ago. Right now it's 0.3%. We figure it's going to end in zero. A 0% CPI means a zero inflationary increase in our revenue year over year. So next year will be challenging for all districts throughout the state. The fact that we have a healthy fund balance can help bridge difficult times such as that. But beyond that, I think this year the sentiment is it's going to be a 98% collection rate throughout. Typically, we've seen upwards of 99%. And so a 2% reduction in collection rate of local tax revenue means a 2% reduction in local tax revenue on our books. It's a conservative revenue assumption, and I think the sentiment is that 2% will eventually come, yet delayed. As it relates to state revenue, the communication is that it'll be based on fiscal year 20. They're just not getting the revenue, so I don't know how they're going to keep cutting checks. Currently, we're going to make an assumption of a 95% proration, a 5% reduction in state funding. So as it relates to the evidence-based funding, if all goes well, what they've presented to us, if we get 100%, our EBF for next year would be maintained flat at $14.4 million overall. And for Fund 30, put my notes there. So that's debt services, and it's a fund that's not tax capped. It's based on our outstanding debt only. And so for fiscal year 21, it's going to be 8.1 million, a reduction of 2.7 million from last year. And in fiscal year 23, that will fall even further down to only $870,000 from the $10 million that we had in fiscal year 20. So that is a great relief on debt services to taxpayers for 2023, as well as this year and next year, incremental decreases in that levy. Areas for expenditures, blue plus green, it's all salaries and benefits. We're a service-oriented institution. That's 2/3. You'll notice in blue, that bar graph, it's been a steady increase in salary expenses. That increase has been about 4.4% over the past 9 years. Now, the thing that I want to focus in on and really pay attention to moving forward is the yellowish bar graph. It peaks and valleys. It's spiking up and down. It's because of our health insurance. We're self-insured. We see very good years as well as very bad years. And so sometimes we're victims of bad years. Unfortunately, we're beneficiaries of good years. And so it's a cost-benefit analysis that we want to take a look at and monitor on an ongoing basis. Now, health insurance costs for next year are going to be flat, no increase. And the reason is because we've got health insurance reserves that we're going to dip into. To maintain that flatness, we had healthy balances and we were able to dip into that. Had we not had that, we would have seen health insurance costs increase by approximately 15% had we not done that. So expense assumptions going further. We have year 3 of our agreement. The basis on the salary schedule for certified is increasing by 1.5 approximately overall. steps are 3%, and of course there are lane change advancements afforded. The overall increase throughout the system would be 4.9% effective. And although the Board of Education has approved the staffing plan, at this time we're not moving forward with 6 para positions along with the technology position until we decide the time is right, given the current state. The quick renewal is 2.3% overall. Workman's comp was down. Our other liability insurance, however, had a positive experience, positive meaning bad, loss ratio. And so the one thing I wanted to mention about CLIC, they came out with a statement just yesterday as it relates to reopening. Viruses, including COVID, pandemics, diseases are being excluded on liability coverages for educational institutions. And that is the direction the entire industry is moving forward in. And so great exposure for educational institutions as it relates to liability. Yeah. Touched on benefits, and you can see overall some of our loss ratios. Our PPO plan at 104, basically meaning for every dollar we put in, we took out $1.04. So that was a loss ratio that was that worked against us. The fully insured HMO had a very good year at 73%, meaning for every dollar we put in, we only took out 73 cents. Blue Advantage, not as many folks in that plan. However, it had a very high loss ratio. And then dental was down. And of course, the sentiment is, folks just haven't gone in and gotten their typical procedures or gone to the dentist. So that is a probable reason for the favorable loss ratio experienced this past year. Now, we talked about capital projects earlier today. Again, we issued $9.2 million in working cash bonds. We've got the North Lot. That amount, almost $1.7 million, reflects what we discussed earlier. Furniture has been completed. Some portions have been completed. There's a phase 2 that's currently ongoing and in the works, and certainly we are going to have conversations about the intent of that furniture and how we want to move forward with that. And Central Mechanical Systems, the Univent project, is currently at $4.2 million as well. So for the calendar, tonight was just a brief overview, some broad assumptions, but very much look forward to bringing to you next month our tentative budget for approval. In September, we'll have our public hearing as well as a presentation for the adoption of the budget as well. It is due to the tax extension office by September 30th. So thank you very much. With that, are there any questions for me at this time?
Hey, Abe, I got a quick question. How are we budgeting and are we keeping track of all of our COVID-19 PPE that we have purchased? Because I did that and I turned it into the Force Reserve, and we're getting reimbursed by FEMA for all of ours. And I can send you that document that I have about it. But are we keeping track? Are we keeping track of all that and trying to get reimbursement on that? Because that's quite a bit of money.
Absolutely. We actually have a separate spreadsheet where we're tracking that. Absolutely. Every purchase, every PO is being tracked from hand sanitizer onward, including the plastic panels and so on and so forth. It's my intent to also add that as a project code within Skyward, so it can be coded for us and we don't have to maintain a separate spreadsheet. But very much so, we will be applying for FEMA reimbursement as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I'll send it to you, but you can read it if you haven't seen it already. But yeah, that's a huge cost. Thanks.
Thank you, Russ.
So kind of piggybacking on Russ's question, so not only PPEs, but any other costs that have increased on any front because of COVID-19, from
custodial staff, absolutely.
Staff or, whatever. I think we should, I'm sure you guys are keeping track of this somewhere, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Tracking hours and absolutely.
And,
got that.
And how it's going to affect the budget.
Indeed. So I actually have a separate financial implications of COVID-19 that is currently in the works. So everything on the revenue side will be affected. I mean, I just talked about property taxes, with a 0% CPI. Impact fees aren't significant. if they were small, they'll be nil at this point. Student fees, I'm seeing a major increase in free and reduced applications, an increase approximately 50% at this point. Rental fees for facilities are minor, but no one's going to be doing that. Food services, managing that process, the loss of revenue and not the the offset for the expenses. Interest on our investments are going to be down. State funding, the proration I discussed earlier, CPPRT revenue will also be affected next year. And then on the expense side, we've got our health insurance. As things have opened up, I think we'll see a major influx to offset the savings from last year. We'll see a spike next year, perhaps. Custodial contract, I mean, it's a different situation. So for each contract service, we need to have a conversation to talk about the different scenarios and what would be appropriate and what we're thinking would be the right thing to do, given that we could undulate from opening to closing and back again. Substitute teachers are going to be down. Obviously, they were down last year. They'll continue to be down next year for significant savings. Energy costs, we're implementing energy initiatives to decrease unoccupied zones and areas. Capital projects, unfortunately, we are continuing with some because it's beyond the design life. And I mentioned transportation. Oil prices are down, diesel costs are down, but it is a challenge to keep our drivers on standby for if and when we open partially or fully. So finding that moderate compromise is something we're engaged in as well right now.
And real quick, Abe and Mikkel, I want to mention this to you. Make sure you keep track of your temporary employees and your overtime cost and training that's also covered, and we keep track of that during this time too through FEMA. That was interesting. I found that out. I didn't have that at the beginning. I had to go back and get that.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing, Russ. We'll definitely follow up on that.
I'll try to be, thank you, Russ. I try to be succinct on these next two things. I was going to bring one up under COVID, but it's more appropriate here. Has there been any adverse effects of the deferred tax collection for this year?
So on a cash basis, it is there's definitely a delay. Quite a few people, number of people took advantage of that. It's about $2.8 million in delay. But on an accrual basis, those June payments will be realized this fiscal year. So if they come in a few months later, they'll still be recognized in the correct year on a cash basis. However, if you look at the budget, we would show a dip of $2.8 million, but then a surplus this year of the 2.8.
Okay,
because
that's
of
what I thought.
Because of the delay.
And the last question I was going to bring up during COVID-19 that I forgot to ask you a couple of days ago when we met is there any increased insurance costs, or do we have to insure ourselves anymore because of maybe a teacher or someone will try to come and sue us for COVID-19 related problems?
Yeah. So our renewal for our liability insurance, workman's comp, overall has gone up a little bit over 2%. But the comment I made earlier, insurance companies are basically excluding COVID as not claimable. And so that has every CSBO in the area very concerned about reopening. As it relates to liability, I mean, negligence, tort immunity exists, but what is negligence? Could it be unfilled sanitizer? Could it be a door that was not checked as it relates to temperature for a few people, or a temp gun that wasn't precise or accurate or calibrated? I think the realm of possibilities for errors and for oversight exist throughout our system with that many staff members and that many students. And so we're all very concerned about insurance companies wanting to be definitely maintained whole financially, but on the backs and at the risk of our cash reserves and on the backs of institutions like us.
Are you guys pushing back on that at all, with our state representatives or with our congressional folks to let them know the kind of circumstance that we're being put in as we attempt to open?
Yeah.
Is there opportunities here with the federal government to help us?
Correct. I mean, there was one state that basically came out, with a position that, schools would not be sued if it's anything COVID related. I forgot which state it was, but that was a successful example. So this just came out yesterday. There is strong dialogue on my IASBO chat group about getting together, forming an initiative, and creating awareness at the state level that we're between a rock and a hard place. The pressure to reopen, the pressure to be remote, and in between knowing that this liability, this risk exists, makes the decision to stay open or to open very difficult as a result. So this is fresh news. It just came out yesterday. We're in conversation right now to get together as a group, as a community, to bring this forward and upward.
So would there be an opportunity, maybe Mikkel, to dovetail back with Ed Red and see if they would, maybe that would be something to think about a little bit.
Right. Agreed.
Okay.
Can I add to that?
Absolutely, you can.
I think that an overall resolution from the board of any number of things that we are facing right now should be brought to our representatives in a very, whatever that list is, should be stated. This is a very big one.
Right.
But there are many. Anything from childcare, substitutes. I mean, we could create quite a list. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ed Red has a template that might be used, but that might expedite it, make it really simple. But whoa, hello, there I am. No, it's okay. But
actually, Amy, Ed Red has never worked on templates before. I've had a first conversation with them on working on a template a few weeks ago. And so, yeah.
Okay.
No, it is absolutely shocking.
All right. Having been with so many organizations that just do that. But, well, you know what? You actually sometimes flooding people with things that are just over and over and over and over again, that we know this, if we see things that are just cut and paste, it can, we do want to take something that might be a template or might be something that's, or whatever. We do want to make sure that it is from our voice and our community and what we're facing. Just a cut and paste thing doesn't speak to what our needs are. So it's important to formulate it to what we've identified as being problems. So that's all I want to say about that, but definitely hearing that problem.
Whenever I talked with them, they're open to the idea, and they were very excited about it when I brought it up to them. Basically, I am very concerned about special education and working on a resolution for our congressional delegation in that area, but I needed to wait until Abe came on board and then dovetail back with you guys. But I think I love your idea, Amy, and I think that we should definitely look at that. But also do it in conjunction with Ed Red, because it's a resource we're going to need to lean into, because all of us need to be working together. And but it's a great idea, and let's think about it. Douglas?
Okay. Anything else on the 2020-21 budget? Okay, we kind of dovetailed anyways into the COVID-19 discussions, which is fine. So, Mikkel, you want to take that?
I don't know if I have anything additional to answer at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of questions on there, and thank you for addressing that. That as best we can. I mean, we can answer those, I guess, but it changes so fast. The FAQs, you're going to be how do you say it? I can't use the right word, but you're going to have to update the database all the time, because your answer today may be different for tomorrow. So why even publish it? And I mean, it's rock and a hard place.
Kind of to that point, I'll just throw this out there. If you remember in March, we canceled school on a Thursday, and JB canceled it. We beat him by a day. Today's Thursday. Not kidding. Watch tomorrow afternoon. We'll see.
All right. And I kind of echo something that Amy said earlier. At some point, you guys just need to make a decision. Us as a board need to make a decision, and we can't just be waiting for federal guidelines and you haven't. So I just wanted to actually echo what Amy said earlier.
Yeah, I mean, public health is at the forefront of all of this. We're in a public health crisis, and that's it. That's it.
Any other board members on COVID-19 questions, or
Not right now, no.
take that as a no? I'd like to move into new business. Recommendation to reject bids for drainage improvements at GCHS. Babe.
Yes, thank you, Douglas. So as it relates to the drainage project, we did bid the project once more with some value engineering. We thought we'd get better pricing. However, we did receive a very poor turnout on the rebid. The project engineer feels this is due to poor timing of the bid. It's already a very busy time of year as it relates to construction. The base bid results were near $200,000, far above the current budget. And we would like to take the opportunity to rebid this once more, more like in January, where it's typical to get competitive prices. The engineer verified that the grant will be extended and can be extended to accommodate that intent to rebid in January, where we can hopefully get more than 2 bids.
Yep, we got no problem with that.
It sounds like a good way to go.
Okay, great. We'll move that forward. Recommendation to approve the resolution authorizing disposal of records. Pretty normal.
Yep.
SOP.
No problem here.
Okay. Chromebooks and Chromebook specs. Functionality, screen size, ergonomics, processing, specs, and sound. This was a request by me, and thank you for fielding that, Jessica.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I did share a Google Doc that has all the information just because it is a lot to process. So if you want to go back and look at some of the answers, you can. But I'm going to go ahead and address these individually. So first, I just want to say when it comes to the Chromebooks right now, we have 3 different models in our district. The freshmen will have the brand new model, which is the Acer 752. Sophomores have 751. And then juniors and seniors have the 738T, which is an older device. When the district started the 3rd year of the program, it was already an older model because it was released in 2016. So when the class of 2022 graduates, that will be a 7-year-old device, just because that's when it was released and that's when we purchased it back when one-to-one started. Good thing is Acer knows the issues with that, and they've warranted that device for as long as the student is enrolled in the district. So anything that goes wrong, biggest issue is a Wi-Fi card with that one. It's an easy swap out. Acer covers all the parts and repair for those because they know they're aware of the issues for that device. And then something that I didn't know, which is good to have in the back of your mind, is if a student transfers in, no matter what grade level they are, they get the same device the freshmen have. So that's what we have going on in our device, or I mean, the 3 devices we have in our district right now. So starting with processing power, the way I looked at these issues, first of all, I have to give a lot of credit to Denise Carr and Carlos Lopez, who helped me through this information. And then when I was able to come into the district, just showed me the 3 devices and showed me the specs and everything of the devices. Then I was able to compare these to what we used in my old district. So we looked at tickets, number of tickets coming in for these issues, and we looked at some proactive solutions. So processing power, we've actually only had, and it was just recently, 1 issue with processing power of the Chromebooks, and it was the older model, the one that juniors and seniors have. But that's also because the student was trying to run Zoom, Schoology, and an instructional tool at the same time. Even a laptop would struggle with that many what I call live programs, so programs where teachers and students are talking back and forth. Or writing on whiteboards. Any kind of device would have a struggle issue with that. It's also a home bandwidth issue. If you have other members in your home that are on the internet at the same time as you're trying to run 3 large programs like that, it will lag. But those are the only, we haven't had any major tickets. If there have been ones with lag, it's just a quick power wash or some sort of hardware failure that just needs to be swapped out, and the rest of the problems have been solved. Proactively, what Denise and Carlos have helped me work on is this great document called All About District 127 Chromebooks. In that document, It basically has just general care for a Chromebook, how you clean it, how you take care of the screen, what you're allowed to do with, personalizing it in the district, but also tips for making it run faster and basic troubleshooting. So we did put things in there and verbiage in there for the students that say, hey, you can't watch 2 YouTube videos, play your music, be in a Zoom meeting, be chatting with someone through your email, and then also try to watch TikTok on your computer at the same time, because it's just not going to run very well. So a lot of the tips we had were, if you're in a Zoom meeting, try to have all your tabs closed except maybe another document that you might be working on, and things like that. And actually, since we've sent out the All About District 127 Chromebooks document, we've had fewer tickets regarding, slowing lag issues because of those simple tips. So that's been great. And that document was blasted out in an email to all of the students just recently. We're going to do it again right before the school year starts. And it's also on our Campus Suite Tech website and on our COVID reopening website. So we're trying to put it in as many places as possible. We also plan on sending it home to the parents, excuse me, once we get closer to the start of the school year and everyone's registered. So that was our processing little section. Screen size. So the question is the screen too small? Now, as adults, yes, for us, it's going to be too small. The students, they're so used to phones and tablets that we have had no student complaints regarding screen size, and only 2 questions since Chromebooks have entered the district in terms of screen size and issues with that. Now, this one I had to actually research for my district because they asked that question about getting larger Chromebooks for the children when it was time for renewal. And here's what we found, and this is the same thing. I love Acer. This district used Acer. We used it as well. It's one of the best companies for Chromebooks. More importantly, their customer service can't be beat. You turn in, or you have questions, you have parts to return. We've had, even through COVID, no issues with shipping parts back and forth. We've gotten everything we needed for the students. So we really like to stick to that that relationship with Acer and that relationship with customer service. So they have different model sizes, screens. We have 11.6, which is a standard computer for Chromebook for schools, for students. 80% of the schools that use Chromebooks, that's the size that they have. From there, it goes up to 13.3 for Acers, 14 if you go into a different brand. It's a very strange difference there. And then 15.6 is the large one. So in my old district, we did a pilot where we sent home the 14-inch screens with teachers. The problem is, the larger the screen, the less durable the device becomes. We had more broken devices from teachers just because just manipulating it to open, you grab by the screen cracks. The hinges become not as strong to support the screen. And then a lot of versions, if you get the larger screen size, you can't tablet the device. You can only have it go flat. That's the best you can do with it. And our kids like to tablet the devices. Some of the concerns that Denise and Carlos had, just being around the students and seeing how the students use Chromebooks, they stick them in their backpacks. They shove them in their backpacks relatively quickly. This would take up more space, and also it's heavier by a significant amount. And it doesn't have that nice protection on the outside of the screen. So as it's being shoved inside of backpacks and other things that students would be putting their devices in, just have a higher likelihood for that screen breaking. I also asked them to look at the prices for us in terms of screen replacement. Hinges are about the same, but hinges will be needed to replace more frequently. Screen size, standard screen for the new freshman Chromebooks, when you break it, it's $190 to replace. And that's not labor because we do that on our end, it's just the screen. And then if you move to their 13.3 model, it goes up to $223. If you move to their 15.6, you might as well buy a new device with the cost of what the screen is. So that's where we've kind of landed in screen size. And of course, I plan on working with CDW right around that November or December time to see what devices are available for students. If the 752 is still available and we have good results from it, we'd like to keep that. It's nice to keep the model for more than 1 year, so we're not dealing with 4 different grade levels and 4 different devices. But we can also look at a larger screen and see what the reviews are on those, knowing that it's not going to tablet the same way, and it may also not have a stylus, which our newer ones do.
So is that it on the screen size? I have a question on that.
Yeah.
So in my original email, I only mentioned screen size, but so when we first piloted the the program, it was on like a basis which the kids are going to use it a little bit at home or at nights, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, raise your hand if you have a second screen at home for work, right?
Right.
We all probably do, or most of us do. And my kind of comment was possibility of having a second screen, because if these kids are going to be at home, 5 days a week for the next couple of months even, and who knows after that, I know people are just much more efficient, and there's lots of argument out there that a second screen makes it a lot better workspace.
Oh, there's no denying that. That's definitely for sure. And all the Chromebooks, even the older model, they can connect to a separate screen without an issue. You can, then use the keyboard functions to either extend the screen or magnify or whatever you want to do. They can. I'm just not sure if you're asking, did we purchase screens for students, or?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we should start the discussion.
Okay. And the thing is, too, is dependent upon how long we are in the remote environment, it would be a matter of, thinking about, are we purchasing those? Are the students going to end up purchasing those? Do they keep them thereafter? Or what happens after, we're done with them? I can start looking. I can actually I won't have to look that far, but I can start looking at screens that would be compatible with the 3 different brands of Chrome, or the 3 different models.
Yeah, so what we've done in the past is, I don't want to go out of our standard operating procedure, where I send you out a wild goose chase, but the rest of the committee or the rest of the board doesn't feel like this is a worthy cause of your time.
Okay.
So let me open it up to the rest of the committee. I think it's very important long term. We were designed, the Chromebooks, the screens were designed for at night. It wasn't designed for 5 days a week. So what does the rest of the committee think?
I disagree. I agree with Jessica. The younger kids are used to working on their iPhones, and that's very small. The cost for us to go out, or a parent to go out, if a parent wants to supply that to their daughter or son to use at home, that's up to them. But to have the district pay for that, I disagree. I think
I agree with what Russ just said. That's
sorry.
It just seems like the time's not right for that right now. Maybe at some point, but right now, there's a lot of other bigger fish to fry right now on our plate.
The parents can go on their own and purchase it. I mean, if they want how they can, or how to, or want to know, then Jessica's department can explain to them, this is what you need, the specific screen to plug in. That's fine. They want to buy it on their own, but I don't think the district should get into that. But there's no reason why certain families and certain kids can't go out and get their own screen.
And it'd be very simple too, if we want to have that information on hand. Again, Chromebooks, we just need to look at what the connector is to be able to go to another screen. I believe on all Acers, they're the same. And so we'd be able to, give a list of 3 that we would recommend that would be easy to get through Amazon or whatever way that parents would be able to get those for their students.
And you can put that on your sheets that you guys hand out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Add that on the bottom.
Yeah, great idea.
I just know how more efficient my kids were, and it was just because we could afford it. I mean, again, but how much more efficient they were when I did give them that second screen. So, okay, good. All right.
Douglas, do you mind if I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
Jessica, and maybe if Tracy would jump in. Are there certain classes where it would be a good idea to have a second screen? I mean, specifically for the work that the kids are doing. I'm not talking about getting everyone a second screen, but if there's certain work that kids do that it would really help them, and I'd like to know about.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you from a discussion I had with the parents in the neighborhood, like the Photoshop people and the engineering people, where they have a palette on one screen and they're designing another. That's tremendous, right? But you can go ahead and answer Kathleen's very good question.
So I guess to be specific, yes, I agree that we can't afford to go out and buy everyone a second screen. However, having worked in the engineering environment, and even in programming, we can use additional screens. Where would they be necessary? And instead of offering them to everyone, would it be something that we could offer on a, I'm not even getting into that. I don't want to even think about that. But where would it be necessary? And could we have a few extras for particular classes that kids are in? I'm interested in just exploring that very basic idea. I'm not talking about getting additional screens for all kids, just for the particular work where it would improve their productivity so that when they go into the workplace, they would look competent.
Tracy, do you mind if I just defer a little bit to you in terms of the actual classes, just because, again, I'm not 100% familiar with all of the classes that that may, my mind goes straight to, of course, anything CTE, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I'd need to do a little digging to be able to answer that well. I think it's less about the screen size than the device in some classes, right? So like in some of our Project Lead the Way courses, they have to work on big desktops that require special software. We have some of our, like at Central, the journalism students use Macs as well as our mobile makers kids. So we're actually in the midst of discussing, is there some way to send those Macs home with kids? There's a whole lot of obstacles we have to get through to do that, to make that happen. But so I think the answer probably is less the screen size for those courses than the actual device which can manage the software required for those courses.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of speak like to things like, desktop layout software and things like that. It is more robust on a Mac platform, certainly. And then there are programs I know that I work with and groups work with where you need two browsers in order to work off of one platform, and then you're working with a group or a team on another browser with another platform. So it's things like that. I think speaking to what Kathleen might be asking about, what's required in order to achieve that goal, and if those things are being required. So
yeah, so
they'll know. I mean, the teachers will know.
Yeah, the teachers will know, and it becomes just then a matter of what can we supply for a student to bring home, what is the cost of that, and what is then our ability to manage that device, update that device from home. And that's one of the obstacles of sending home the Macs, for example.
Right, and I understand that, but going back to one of Amy's points earlier was that, and I think it goes back to what Abe was talking about a little bit, is that we need to be able to, we may be in this for a while. We may be in this for a while, guys. So, and so what I'm thinking is if there is going to be an additional stimulus package, and there may be multiples, we need to be prepared for an ask. And so in order to be prepared for an ask, we need to start thinking, what do we need to be prepared to ask for? So right now, sometimes we can, in education, we've been so used to hunkering down for so long, and especially a school district like ours, just to make things work. You guys have had to do that. But there may be opportunities coming up when we can punch up. And if there are, I want us to be ready to ask for it. And I think we may be in this tech world for a while.
Right, and if we have students that are, to piggyback off of what Kathleen is saying, and I think what everyone I think has been saying in this discussion, is if a student is kind of feeling like they could use a little bit additional help, and even what parents have been saying, they might like the idea of remote, but then there's these little bits that need some additional help. If there's an additional piece that'll help, then that?
I'm sorry, I'm jumping in here again.
No, it's okay. I stumbled on my words. I'm hitting a wall.
What I'm seeing in the young adult world right now with my daughter out there, any kids that have computer savvy are getting jobs. I mean, they're getting hired. If you can walk in, sit down, and use the equipment, you're getting hired. And if you can work from home, you're getting hired. And I'm looking at our strategic master plan. I was looking at that darn thing. Let's just look into it, see where we're at, and be ready to ask for money, and if we need to. And it was a great question, Douglas, and I think it's leading to a really important conversation. And yes, to Russ and Hal's point, yeah, we don't have the money to do this, but you know what? We may have to go find it.
Can I get a headset like Amy then? Everybody, get one for everybody.
I'll just add it to the list. I'll share a Google Doc with you. You can put your wants on it, and then I'll see what I can do for you, for sure. But
we're just asking questions right now. We're just going to see where it's leading. Don't want to run you down a rabbit hole here. Just light and fuzzy.
Yeah, and the thing is too is a lot of what Tracy and I started talking about are those special programs. She spent so much time on developing this amazing schedule, and all of us trying to figure out how we're going to support what this schedule is, that those individual courses haven't come up yet, and now they're starting to come up one at a time in terms of what are we going to do for this class that uses a special this, what are we going to do for this class that uses a special this. So, I mean, if there's funding to be found, being able to support those classes so that they don't dwindle and so that enrollment doesn't dwindle is very important. It's just a matter of what we can do remotely and what we need to be able to do it all remotely. So thank you for that, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great, I really like the hybrid plan. I'm glad that we've got some breathing space right now, given the environment that we're in, that now that can focus on, rather than all the pieces, can focus on one element of where we're driving to.
And just so you are all aware as well, the tech staff, particularly I have to shout out to John and Steve, they've worked really hard to figure out how to keep up with all of the licenses and policies on the staff devices in the event that there's a long gap before they return back to the buildings again. And they were able to come up with a system that does that without expense. They were able to program something that is actually working. So we can update Microsoft licenses, we can update any policies, we're able to access P drives and things of that nature all remotely. And they've been spending just countless hours doing that. So at least I feel like the new devices that our teachers are getting, and when we set up our new teachers, they'll be able to access everything from home, same way they can access it from their classroom and not have to worry about things lapsing. So we're on top of that as well for our staff. Sorry, that was a sideline. I know that wasn't a question.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
And thank you for addressing all these. Maybe some of the other ergonomics is also included in that Chromebook document that you sent out.
So yeah, so the sound one I can hit really briefly. Most students have their own headsets. If they use it for, if they have one for their phone, it pairs up with their Chromebooks very easily. So a lot of the time they're switching between the two, whatever earbuds they have, everything that works with their phone works with their Chromebooks. Denise actually did bring up that for park testing, we used to purchase just hundreds of these cheap ones for students that would need it. So that would be an option if students don't have them. We can try to find where those are located or see where we ordered things like that from to be able to provide to our students. But even when we were in school, there were only 1 or 2 students that ever asked for headphones because most of them have their own. And then ergonomics, I'm actually glad you asked that because this is really important. And because of the way we kind of rocketed into COVID, it wasn't anything that anybody addressed, right? It was more, can we just at least get the computers working and get kids on it? So what I actually did was work with my chiropractor, whom if I didn't see, I don't think I'd be standing on 2 legs. So got some information from him as well as from my ISTE, the Technology Education Group, and the IDEA Illinois group in terms of a way to organize this information. So what I created was a slideshow, brief slideshow, and also then an infographic that focuses on 4 main areas: your workspace, your posture, taking breaks, and creating a routine. And it just has simple steps to be able to do those things. The slideshow includes videos on how to set up your spaces and advice given on how to set up your chair, where you should be sitting, where your elbows should be so that you're not causing carpal tunnel or anything of that nature. And after I made this, unfortunately, then I became OCD about the way I was sitting and rechecking everything as well. So that helped me too. But what we've done so far is taking those pieces about ergonomics, placed it on the COVID website because it's important for parents as well that are working at home, anybody. and then also put it on the district website in the tech section as a resource for people to be able to access. And it is linked in the All About District 127 Chromebooks. But that's something that's important even when this is over, because if you're still going to be doing homework and things of that nature at home, and it is important to check in on that. So the resources, hopefully you have them. If not, I could send them to you in a separate link. I know they had to be printed in this version because of Board Book, but those are all vividly displayed for everyone to be able to see, to check where you're sitting while you're working or standing while you're working.
Perfect.
And then
Jessica,
yes,
Jessica, can you email that to me?
sure can. I'll email both of those to you. No problem. And then also, not on this sheet, but a question that had come up was about Wi-Fi. So we were granted, not granted, we pay for them now, but 40 hotspots from T-Mobile. We currently have 20 of them checked out to our incoming sophomores through seniors. We got 2 of them, we received 2 of them back from seniors that graduated, which leaves us with about 20 left to be able to distribute to any incoming freshmen that don't have Wi-Fi at home, have spotty Wi-Fi at home, or have some sort of living condition that would require them to have Wi-Fi. Typically, they reach out to Meg and Mike, and then the 2 of them will let me know, and it takes us all about 5 minutes to provision one for a student. They're able to take that home. We have a set of directions for them, and then they have Wi-Fi in the house. So considering 3 grade levels are only taking up 20 right now, with the 20 we have left, I'm pretty sure we'll have enough for the incoming freshmen. I also have a meeting with the gentleman from T-Mobile who provided those, or who's working with that service with us, to see what it would be to increase or to decrease. Right now, those are costing $20 a month per hotspot.
Okay. Thank you for that very comprehensive. I know it took a lot of time and it was hit you pretty hard coming in, but I think it's really important. And thank you for the other board members for this discussion.
Yes, and thank you for actually it was a great experience for me to work with the tech team and be able to learn this information about the district for myself. So thank you.
Closed session. Do we ever need to go in closed session? Don't think so. Topics for future committee or board meetings. I have just one that I forgot to put on this one. The update on the contract negotiations. So
I have one also. When it comes to the long-term contracts for food service transportation, I want to put a limitation, talk about setting some sort of limitations on how long they can be renewed automatically without going out to full bid.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Doug-
Douglas,
I'm sorry. Douglas, I'd like to have Abe talk to us all about his feelings and how we're doing with the solar panels and what's being done, because I know we had that misfortune of a transfer going out, and I'm sure Dan's on top of that, but just wanted kind of an update on that if we can.
Of course.
One very long term, Abe, very long term. I'd like to think about what a sustainable bidding ordinance would look like. A bidding ordinance that would reflect our values and the values that we like to, all things being equal, that we would like to promote. So I'd like to have a conversation about that at some point, not anytime soon, but I think it's important moving forward that we think about our values and think about the companies that we work with. And if all things being equal, work with firms that they have a living wage and some other criteria that we can define as a board and as a educational community. That's it.
I like that. That's good.
We never did get, and I know we're busy with other stuff, so it's probably not at the time, but down the road, Abe wanted to have and we can do it on Zoom or whatever, whenever we have time, earmark and especially earmark presentation from them. That never happened. And I know because what's going on, but keep that in the back of your mind.
No, it's good. I think they were starting to put that together, weren't they, Abe? I don't know if Michael discussed them with him or not.
Yes, they discussed it, and we can certainly set that up on a future agenda.
Yeah, that was something that can keep getting kicked down the road.
Yep, thanks, Russ.
We'll get on it. Yep.
Thanks.
I know they're excited to do so. So.
Okay. If that's it, I'd like to adjourn. Okay. Want to take a 5-minute break before we go into PPP? Okay. Be right back.
Water refill. Oh, it doesn't matter. There's no cats here, right? Okay, good. Excellent.
Not yet.
Do any of you guys have animals? Do any of you guys have animals that like zoom through your Zoom calls? I have this.
Yes, my dog popped in a couple of times at F&F, and I was very
Me too.
alarmed.
So we've had cats in our family for, well, my husband and I have always had cats. Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, adorable. Yes, we have a black cat and we have a white snowshoe Siamese. And last month we got a black lab. And we've never had it. I've always had dogs, but my husband has not had dogs. And he's 75 pounds, so he's all there. I mean, but he's our new like therapy dog in the house. So everyone's
How do the cats like the dog?
Oh, the Siamese came out in the Siamese, but no, they're fine, and he doesn't care about them. He doesn't, whatever. We think that the cats think they're dogs, and the dog thinks he's a cat. He's trying to climb up on us and like snuggle. And the cats sit by the door waiting for my husband to come home, like they're dogs.
Oh.
And they play fetch. That's the cats. Bizarre. Anyway, I'm digressing. I know we got to get going here. So, anyway, I think we're all here. So we'll get this thing going. All right. So it is 8:28. We're still going, guys. And
is that a mixed drink or water?
No, it's just water. No, I know. It's just water, I swear. Let's see. We'll call the meeting to order. It's 8:29. And I see Jay. And I heard Aaron. Yes?
I'm here.
Yep. Okay. All right. So we're all good. And we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public participation. Do we have anyone here for public participation? Mikkel, can you see, or anyone?
I don't see anyone in our participants other than us.
No, I don't see either. Okay. All right, we're good. So I'm going to close public participation at 8:30. Reviewing the minutes from June 11th. I didn't see anything that was out of the ordinary. Erin?
I'm good.
You're good? Jay?
I'm good too.
Jay, giving me the thumbs up. All right, so we'll move those forward. Continuing business, COVID-19 update. Anything else that we want to discuss about COVID-19?
Yeah, I have nothing additional other than what we shared earlier.
Right, we had a lot of discussion.
Jump in on a lot of those parent questions because
right.
I have answers. Yes, we're going to have virtual tutoring and virtual ARC, and we have all kinds of stuff planned for the freshmen, and
right.
All that's in the works.
I did notice. I will say this. So we've been having lots of discussions, but the parents they haven't been attending these meetings. And one thing that there's so much more rigor and pieces going from being in crisis mode with remote to what is being expected now with the fall. I mean, all the planning and everything, and different pieces that stick out to me of what the feedback that came back from students of what they liked about it, that's being instilled, and what teachers liked about it and it's being instilled, and things that were problematic, and then how to have solutions around that. So that maybe wasn't discussed tonight, but it was, you know, in an hour time frame, you know, rolling out what a hybrid or what might happen. And all of this is so fluid. You know, it's inevitable that there are going to be a lot of questions about what is it going to look like. So I have no doubt. I will share that I can definitely see, and I think this is relevant within this piece about, you know, that social emotional piece of the kids getting together, and how do they get together, and how do they meet up with each other. My daughter's in a theater camp this week, and so they are she was in this camp last year, so that the camp counselors are getting them together, and then like camp last year, then they leave. So the kids are all in the Zoom room, and then the counselors exit, and then they're all socializing. And she's in there, man, it's 7 o'clock until whenever. And they're doing all sorts of things, Netflix parties, and they were doing talent shows, and she's having a ball. So anyway.
No, it's all a part of it, right? It's all a part of our conversation.
Yeah.
How do we still engage students? It's one of the reasons that this idea of a phased roll-in, right, this allowing these extracurricular pieces to occur, even if some are remote, right, but still allowing some of those to occur, because it's such a crucial piece to the mental health.
Yeah. So,
Amy, if I could, the only question I got from the community, and I don't think I shared this with, I did share it with Kathleen and Mikkel, that people actually walked up to me, which normally doesn't ever happen. They are concerned on how available the teachers are during the day for the kids to have the question. And I did have some comments, can't prove it, they can't, I'm not getting into that, but they weren't available to answer the kids' questions during the school day. And that was really the only concern I had. Otherwise, they were very pleased, but just wanted to make sure that the teachers were available when you're e-learning for any questions.
Right.
Yeah. That's all a part of sort of expectations moving into the fall, right? How do we engage kids more consistently, more regularly? How do we use Zoom? How do we use it in different ways to allow kids to show mastery and engage with one another? So that's all a part of our conversation and what that's going to look like, both full remotes, but also in a hybrid. What does that look like when we have students at home full time that have opted out of the coming into school, right? So that's one of the reasons we built the schedule we did, was because it allowed both of those things to live together, to coexist and have remote kids still be engaged with the rest of their class. So long story short, it's very much a part of our dialogue and a part of our planning and training.
Yeah, they just want to make sure that they can, you know, one of the examples where the teacher actually said, hey, they did for the week. I won't be available, but you can email me. I'll get back to you when I can. That wasn't good.
Yeah.
I think there's instances too, though, in the spring where everyone was under considerable stress. So I think the teachers were under, and this is a concern, this is a continual concern, the amount of stress that everyone was under. So I give some grace to anyone that was under this. I mean, everyone, that going home to start teaching, and then if they had small children, then they're navigating that, or if they had a family member who was maybe working in a hospital and then they're dealing with that, or someone lost their job. I mean, so many layers. I can see, or maybe just I can see how things weren't maybe tended to in the way that we would expect all the time that time. But now, this fall, I think things will be a little bit different.
Yeah,
but Yeah, but I
mean,
think it would be
how does
very
that
stressful
get-
if they were expected to be in the building right at this
Yeah.
stage.
I just think now we learned this, and I did talk to Mikkel about this. Have we set up any checks and balances for the teachers to check in to make sure that they are there doing that? Now, I'm accusing them. There's a lot of good teachers, but how do we do those checks and balances? And I'm sure it's going to change now because we're now more into it. But is there a system set up to check and balances that the teachers are there doing that?
Sure. Okay. Any
Yeah, Amy, one other thing. Sorry.
absolutely no, we're just going around.
And this might help you, Russ, too. I mean, remember that we had that do no harm mandate. And I think one of the things with e-learning, especially if we don't get to choose how the school starts, you know, is really making that impression. The biggest complaint I heard over the summer is, you know, there was no accountability. This is not going to look like spring at all because we will have those grades. We will have that accountability.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have one question. I didn't want to bring it up during my meeting because it was too long. But I know we're doing the temperature checks, and I know that was a really hot item at the beginning as an indicator.
That was a good pun. Thank you for that.
But now it seems from CDC and that the O2, little finger thing, and I know that's touching and all that, but it seems like a better indicator of COVID-19, et cetera. And I wonder if the administration has kind of looked into that.
No, as far as that's interesting. The O2 monitor, have not thought about that. Honestly, we're worried about managing the temp checks. So we'll have to, I don't know, that could be something that districts start to do, but I had not heard about that, but we'll look into it.
Hospitals are doing the temperature check with the handheld, and I don't trust those either. But everywhere I've been right now in hospitals and doctors' offices, they use those handheld, and they're checking your temperatures.
Yeah, that's in our plan for when we move to the hybrid piece.
Yep.
I think ultimately we'll need to know on a metrics, with some metrics built in, you may have this, we just, how long it takes to get 400 students through the temperature check, what time frame you need, we've got asymptomatic, we really just need more supports that are greater than what we provide at the schools. Your rapid tests and everything. There's just greater supports we need.
And Michael, you said that in your presentation, I watched it twice, that if I as a parent say my kid's fine, then they don't have to go through the temperature check? That was?
No.
No, there are different ways of doing it. The temp check, where we finally landed is everybody would do a temperature check.
Oh, okay.
But in the attendance form, there will be like questions that they have to answer, like, do you have COVID? No. Have you been to a state that is a hotspot or whatever? No. Have you been in close contact with somebody? No. Like that's something where the parents have to certify for the kid. But the temp check, we would physically do.
I'm still not allowed to go to my office.
I've been in my.
I'm just not. They're not letting me in. So there you go.
Yeah.
Amy, you can come in my office and mow some grass for me.
There you go. It's just my job role. So my job doesn't have to be done there. So they're having the least number of people as possible in the spots. So and no one can be there for more than an hour. And no one can meet together. So if I have to have a meeting, I have to have it on Zoom even if I'm in the building. So it's pretty strict.
My house has turned into an office for two of my.
Yeah, so.
I don't own my house anymore.
Anyway, okay. So Any other questions? Did Jay, did you have any questions?
Not at this time. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. And Aaron, you spoke. Kathleen? Where did my thing go?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're fine? Okay.
Yep.
All right. All right. So going on to new business, field trips. We have none. We should have no field trips. No field trips have been happening. There are no field trips.
Correct.
Okay. Revised school calendar.
Yes. So good.
Danielle?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. This is kind of a two-parter, Amy, with your permission. So, kind of in line with things are moving on a dime, our school calendar is as well. So on June 22nd, November 3rd, General Election Day was made a state holiday for this year and this year only.
Mm-hmm.
So we pivoted quite quickly and had our calendar committee and discussed the easiest option was just to simply take that day off and add it to the end of the school year, making the last day of student attendance May 27th. And then upon discussion today, we'd also like some grace to take a little bit longer to determine what the beginning of our year will look like. Right now, first day of student attendance is set to be August 18th. Upon initial conversation, we would love to use 2 days, the 18th and 19th, as remote planning days per the guidance allows us to really ensure that teachers connect with one another, can kind of wrap their brain around this remote schedule and be ready to support and engage students as best they can. So almost like an additional 2 Teacher Institute days, then shifting the first day of student attendance to August 20th. So Amy, with your permission, I'd love to bring back a draft to the August 6th PQ meeting to have further discussion and let that land here at the table and then bring it forth for approval on August 13th.
My only concern about that is that we would then be approving on August 13th.
For a start date of August 20th.
Start date of August 20th with our families and parents.
Yeah, we would need
so they wouldn't have a
We'd have to get out in front of that a little
We'd
bit.
have to say with, pending board approval.
Get out in front of that.
Yeah, we'd have to say pending board approval, whatever, but communicate to everybody that August 20 would be the first student attendance day.
Amy, is there a reason why we couldn't organize this for the July 30th meeting? We have a meeting coming up in 2 weeks, a board meeting.
Yeah, I would.
So you'd be okay with us walking in a new version?
I would walk it in.
Okay.
Get it on in, girl.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Amy. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet.
No. I mean, my brain was already going there. I just would want my committee mates, Jay and Aaron, to be in agreement here. And I don't want to force their hands, but.
Well, I was going to suggest that we kind of operate similar to what we did in Finance Committee and just kind of say this is going to, or kind of have the discussion here of what are our feelings right now, kind of have that preliminary push of this is what we're looking to do. We've discussed it as a board and it'll be formally adopted on the 30th. The more time that we can give our teachers and families, the better.
I agree.
Everybody needs every bit of time they can have. They're looking to do something. So if they're looking to open on, if you feel that this is critical for the teachers, that's fine. If, students are planning on coming back on the 18th and now we're telling them, no, you're not coming back until the 20th, I think we just have to be really sure this is what we need to do.
Yeah, we
I'm going to say about that.
I think it's best for the system.
Okay.
It's going to allow our, so what's going to remain the same is the 13th and the 14th are still Teacher Institute days as we had initially planned. That kind of launches teachers, school year has begun.
Yeah.
The 17th will still, as was previously planned, be the closing really of our freshman activities because we've got a number of days of those kind of planned.
Okay.
So that would still be the case where we're engaging families around freshman activities. And then the 18th and 19th would allow the system to, if they haven't already, distributing supplies to students, arranging pickups for textbooks and all those kinds of things. They won't be in school that first week, right? If we're remote, to get those things. So it allows time for that kind of organization, for pickup of or delivery of student materials, and it allows our teachers, when they're all in the building, schools have officially begun to collaborate with their teams and finalize their plans for the upcoming week and the upcoming unit. So the teachers will be working all summer for sure, but I think those 2 days are important for teachers and important for the system.
Okay.
Yeah, Amy, I'm good with kind of just pushing this forward. I think we're in an unprecedented year, and this is going to be an unprecedented school year with a lot of moving parts and a lot of having to make these changes. I'm just glad it's 2 days and not 2 weeks. Like some districts are having to do 2-3 weeks because they're not ready.
No one's, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So then I will have that ready and prepared and send it to Jenny as soon as I'm able to get either in the board as an update, or we'll bring it in that evening.
Excuse me, Russell, did you have any thoughts?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I don't. Yeah, Russell.
I could change my grid.
No, I think the extra time would be good, but you got one heck of a campaign to get that date out to everybody so they're aware of it. You know what I mean? It's almost got to start right away.
Yeah.
I think if we got to give her, like we did in F&F, to go ahead and start that out soon.
Right, because I mean, even today's everyone that we had, almost 200 people in the special meeting, and no one heard it.
Nope.
Right.
Yeah, I would much rather have everyone know starting tomorrow, even
Yeah.
if it's a pending board approval. I think we're in a space where we're not really operating as we normally would. I think this gives everyone the break that they need.
Yeah. So as messages are going out tomorrow that are attached to whatever, because isn't tomorrow, Mikkel, aren't you sending something out? Or no?
Yeah, I'm planning on sending something out. I wasn't sure. I've got to rethink it a little bit.
Sorry, I know it's so late.
It's probably going to be short and sweet, and it's probably going to be the recording of the meeting, and then more to come next week.
I suggest
ultimately, yeah, we got to get that out soon.
You got to call. You got to call. Do the phone tree thing where you call each one. That seems to be one of the things that does work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not too worried. I think we can get the message out, right? We have, school messengers, a lot of different mechanisms to do that, social media. But because these plans are so, recent, these changes, these shifts to, I think we need to delay the opening just in response to conditions that have rapidly evolved around us. We were going to send a communication to staff to let them know, because they don't know yet. And then we have an administrative meeting with our entire administrative team tomorrow morning. And then we have a listening session already scheduled for our staff on Wednesday, where we can outline, they'll see in writing what the changes are, but we'll be able to communicate with them verbally on Wednesday, which is already on their calendar. And so then once our staff knows, I feel like we can blitz that communication out to the larger community.
Guys, I can't believe I'm doing this, but our job is the what, their job is the how. They're great. Yeah. And, let's kind of tighten it up. We're going to need to be doing this to help them a little bit as we move forward. I trust them. I've been around long enough. They're going to get it done for us. So let's concentrate on what we need to do. I think it's a good move to move quicker than slower. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, committee.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now we're on to board policy review. They're back. Yeah, they're back. Okay. So we've got, they're mostly updates. So the first one is board member compensation expenses.
Yeah. So this is updated to reflect the GATA legislation that went through last year, and it just updates board reimbursement of expenditures if done through a grant. It gave some guidance around that. We, to my knowledge, to this point, haven't charged board expenses to, say, III or whatever through a grant. But if we ever did, that language would then be in our document. So any of the changes you see are in green in this document. It adds some things about baggage as a possibility to be reimbursed. And ride sharing could be something that would be reimbursed if the board wants. So those are the big changes to this document. And then we have a question to consider as a board after you look at this. Do you want the board to have baggage fees reimbursed? And if the answer is no, they'll pull that language out of this change. And if the answer is yes, they'll leave it in.
So both of these things are things that are already, they're by tax law, they're acceptable as reimbursements.
Yeah.
And I feel that while I don't think that they need to be reimbursable myself, that it comes up as a question if it can be reimbursable. So this allows the language to be tightened up for a yes or a no question for somebody looking at if something can be reimbursable. Does that make sense? It's like if someone's asking, well, can this be done? It's there. It still would need to be approved. It makes it more, it makes it clear if it can be or can't be. So, So to me, it's just tightens it up.
Okay. So
but that's my opinion. And I don't think that a lot of expenses need these kind of expenses. We aren't using this, but some other group down the line after I'm well and gone might decide to do it, but they would look at this as policy for guidance.
Yeah.
And this makes it clear. That's the only reason why I would do it.
Yeah.
So, Jay?
I don't really feel strongly one way or the other, but I think thinking long term, if we want to send as many board members to, let's say, a conference, and if baggage fee is going to be a barrier to entry, I would much rather take that away than put that in place.
Mm-hmm.
Did I cut out?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just making sure
I hear anything I said?
So do you want it in or do you want it
Okay.
out?
I guess I would say
I'm missing it.
Yeah. I heard him say he wants it in because that way it won't be a barrier to entry if it ever were for somebody.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. That's fine.
That's what I heard him say too.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you,
Okay.
Jay.
So
Erin?
Yeah, I'm thinking of we are not a board that does a lot of things that require a baggage fee at this point. And, I don't think that, especially with our current usual consideration of property taxes and consternation, I don't see us doing that anytime in the near future. So I'm not too worried about that. And I don't see anybody currently taking advantage of it. So is it baggage just, yeah, unless somebody's deciding to get their heavy baggage fee or something, but I would think that would not be reimbursable.
No, the board would.
It would be reasonable to expect it as opposed to.
A board could disallow it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a check and balance, so it's not taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Okay. I always think it's just good to have it in what is allowed, so then people aren't trying to put other things in there. So I don't know. All right. Anybody else? Douglas, Russ, Kathleen?
Maybe you should put in there fly Southwest. You don't charge.
No, it's fine. We're all done. We're walking. All right. All right, next one. We'll move this one along. Board attorney.
Yeah, so just this is a press update. After they did a 5-year review of the document and did some updating of the language. The red was struck, the green was added about the retention of a board attorney. The only piece that seemed kind of unique, right, when Amy and I were looking at it, was the portion where they struck that board attorney shall not, they struck that the board attorney shall not represent another client if the representation involves a concurrent conflict of interest unless permitted by the rules of professional conduct by the Supreme Court. And they struck that, I'm assuming, because the professional conduct rules by the Supreme Court don't allow there to be a conflict of interest. Like, it's explicitly stated you can't do it. So they struck it because it's already embedded in their rules of professional conduct. But that was the only kind of odd thing that was in there.
It's just been a slightly strange lately, so we figured it might be just kind of, I don't know, it was, yeah. Unnecessary, just, I don't know, preventative, unnecessary language.
That's what it seems.
Which would typically be good, but I don't know.
Yeah.
This seemed overall fine to me, but I don't know, others on the committee. Jay's got a thumbs up. Erin?
I'm good.
Okay. Anyone else? Russell, Douglas, Kathleen? Nope, all shaken up. Okay, we're good. Moving along. All right, Board of Education. Board of Education meeting procedure.
Yep, so this was updated to reflect virtual meetings.
Yep.
Which of course is our life right now, right? So the green section added to basically say that we can do remote meetings, you need a quorum, etc. And kind of the rules around who makes the determination of physical or not physical meeting.
Right, it just updates our current situation and puts us into practice.
Correct.
So it seemed fine by me. Jay's got a thumbs up. Erin?
I'm good, yep.
Okay, Douglas? Russell? Kathleen?
I'm good.
All good? All right. Yeah, we're good. We've been going over this with a fine-tooth comb already, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one, payment procedures, right?
No.
No.
The
requirements for, yeah, sorry.
So it's the exhibit to accompany the policy that was just updated.
Yeah.
You guys all have that, 2220E9 in your packets? Page, I don't know, 104. Does everyone have that?
No.
Good. So exhibits don't normally come here, right? They don't get board approved. It won't go forward for approval. But because like exhibits in section 2 are kind of the one type of exhibit we'll bring to the board for review to see if this is a process that you would like to utilize or not. So we don't have to by any means utilize this process. We can kind of put it formally in board book if you would like. You could just keep it internal if you would like. So you just need to review. It's basically a step-by-step. How do you decide whether to go remote with your meeting? Who makes that decision? And when they make the decision, have you met the required pieces of it? So first, the first step is that there were circumstances that make it possible, right? Was it a Department of Health disaster declaration that has allowed it? And so you have to first decide, do the conditions permit, right? Then you move into step 1 if the conditions do permit it. And is it an emergency? And if so, yes, there's steps underneath what you do if it's an emergency. If on the next page it's no, then it tells you what to do. Then it goes on to step 2, determining whether it's practical, prudent, or feasible for any in-person attendance at the regular meeting location, right? So is it feasible for Mikkel to be sitting in the room he's sitting in right now? If the answer is yes, then it tells you what to do. If the answer is no, then it tells you what to do. And then step 3, during the meeting, it just reminds you that you have to have a recording secretary and some of the steps in place there, of how you have to record it, how you have to make it available, how you have to have public participation available, and that you conduct all votes by roll call so they can be identified in a recording. So it kind of gives you the step-by-step of what to do if you decide to go remote. So we can choose to formalize our process. We can say we're happy with how we're doing it. We can choose to use this or not. It's up to you, but since it's a board process, I wanted to bring it to you. And we also don't have to decide tonight. If you'd like to look it over, bring it back up next meeting, we can certainly do that.
I mean, I'm overall fine with this. The only question that I had was, you know, like even like in our situation now, just understanding like what is the, you know, practical, prudent, feasible, you know, like what are those definitions? How does that?
Yeah, and I think they leave it up to the board president first, or the vice president,
right,
or then the superintendent to decide and interpret the current situation. Does it meet those definitions and circumstances?
Okay. So I always think it's helpful to have a steps like this, a decision tree, a way to kind of triage out how to make some of these decisions. Mm-hmm. So because new people do come on, or there's just lots of brains, and what are we doing next? And when you are in this kind of situation, it does help. So when I went through it, I thought it was okay, but anyone else?
Looks good to me. It reflects kind of what we've been doing under these circumstances.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, especially right now, because we aren't holding formal public meetings, it's important to have kind of, this is our rationale of why we're doing this way. You know, it was a little scattered, so I'm glad for it.
Okay. Kathleen, you've been in the thick of this, so, and having to make some of these decisions. So what are your thoughts?
You have to unmute.
Oh, mute.
Sorry. I think the chain of command's been really well in place. I think Mikkel, myself, and Russ have been working really well and closely, and following every guideline. There was only one time when we veered from what the governor was saying, but we did that because of, that was early on, and we did it because of health reasons. So we put health reasons at the heart of everything we do. So I'm good with it. I'm good with what we have been doing. I'm happy we look it over one more time, though. You know, with the last, we did get this yesterday, and it's been super busy with a lot of other things. I have read it, but I'd like to give it one more look. So, Tracy, thank you for the option of bringing it back. And maybe Mikkel, when, I don't know, I'm not going to talk to Mikkel. But anyway, maybe we can take a look at it again in about a month or so. Maybe not next month, maybe, but maybe the following. And when we've got through some of this stuff that we're doing right now. And then, is that okay with everybody? Yeah, I just think it's been super tight right now, and the whole team has been really, it's like a hive. It's been good. All right.
Put it back on in, what do we think, in August, September?
Amy, you decide. But
Well, let's just do the option of putting it on August, and if we need to kick it down to September, we'll do that.
Okay.
We'll just see how, if things are hot and heavy and just really crazy, we will just not do it. We'll do it in September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's not the only release valve I had to do this week. So I just changed deadlines on one group. We've been doing things in 7-day turnarounds. I said, okay, we're going back to 28. It's not doing that extended stuff like that forever. Got to change it. So, okay. All right. Where am I now? So
450.
What?
450 payment procedures, I believe.
Yes, now I'm there. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. So this is just a 5-year review. There's no recommended language changes. It's lines up with what our current practice is, but it was just bringing it before the board for the 5-year review.
Yeah. This is fine as far as I'm concerned. Is there any questions? Jay's got a thumbs up? No? Yes. Okay. Aaron? Thumbs up. Okay. Anyone else? Don't shake me off. Nope. Okay. All right. We're going to move that right along. Okay. 560 expenses.
So this is reimbursable expenses for staff around travel in particular. Again, this is updated to reflect the GATA language legislation. So the stuff in green has been updated, so it's in alignment with that. It's already consistent with what we do. We already have to agree to and abide by all the GATA regulations anytime we reimburse anyone. So we're already in alignment with what's in this document.
Okay. Yeah, this one was fine to me. And I think we had also looked at it recently. Did we not, some of it?
Yes, and then they recently updated again with the new language. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna do another thumbs up fast on this one because I knew we saw. Yeah, Aaron too. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. All right. Personnel records.
These are just legal reference updates. No changes to language, okay. And again, it is still consistent with our practice.
Okay. When I read through this, I didn't see anything that hit me funny. So Jay, good. Aaron, good. Anyone else? All right, all good. Thank you on that. I think we're done with policy update. Yeah. Not too painful.
Not too bad.
Nope. All right, excellent. Okay, I believe we are now on to, let's see now. Do we have a need to go into closed session?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, quite excellent.
Yes.
All right. All right, personnel recommendations. Danielle.
Yes. So building level leaders and the HR team has been busy, as you can see, with accepting letters of resignation as well as some recommendations to hire. Some internal shifts have gone on in a really nice way, staff grabbing new opportunities within our district to expand their repertoire and skills. So we're really excited about that. Happy to say, knock on wood, as I do every meeting, we only have about 2 licensed positions left to fill, and we're narrowing in on those as we speak. So all good news on that front. So a long list, but
yep.
Tis the season.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on activities and athletics. I know in the spring, those that were, sponsors or coaches or whatnot were able to receive their stipend because of how unprecedented it was and abrupt. I wonder if IHSA says anything about the cancellation of sports, or if we can't do activities, how does that line up with those that have already been approved or will be approved to be sponsors and coaches?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jay. So I think we made this commitment At our PQ committee back in June, we had this exact discussion, right? And part of that was really with me leading a subcommittee of over 20 staff that represent every employee group to say kind of what will our roles look like if and when we are remote again, right? Life turned on a dime on March 13th for many of us, and teachers had to pivot quite quickly. Administrators kind of stayed their course, as well as educational support personnel like our secretarial and clerical staff. But for some of those other positions like hallway monitor, for example, Jay, sponsors, right? People started to say like, wow, what is my world like if I'm not physically monitoring the hallways for kids? So the purpose of my subcommittee over the arc of the summer has been to engage exactly in that. What will and how can a hallway monitor still engage with students if we remain remote? Same holds true with sponsors and athletics. And because of the excellent staff we have who are our sponsors and our coaches, they already started thinking outside of the box this spring, engaged really creatively over Zoom, had workouts, remote activities that still kept kids going and excited about their clubs and activities as well as their athletics. So my hope future forward is we continue on that trajectory. We are slowly kind of, as IHSA moves forward in their phases, we are following suit with our clubs and sponsors to be really slow and thoughtful about clubs and activities getting together, but we are supporting that. So as Mikkel spoke about earlier, it's kind of a nice way to still allow kids to have that SEL connection, as Amy talked about with her very own daughter, in a very controlled way, still allowing our sponsors to make contacts with kids and therefore still remaining whole in terms of their stipend. So unless something drastic changes, kind of that's our plan right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't mean to rehash the discussion.
No.
Again, time is a construct, so I appreciate it.
I'm a big rehasher. I love a rehash. So thanks for letting me go back down that road.
Yep.
Did that meet your need? Is there anything?
Yes, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I just have a quick question. If we're seeing, and I know, Danielle, this is like your second start of the school year with us, but do we think that we're going to have a higher rate of turnover, or, is this going to change retirements? Are we having some personnel issues that might be a problem down the road?
In relation to COVID, Erin?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The paradigm shifting, so.
I don't think we're feeling it yet. I do indeed think we will down the road. And it's interesting. We were just on a task force earlier, and kind of the question came up about student teachers. And Dr. Jeff Shagrin from North was like, I really want to keep our student teachers in. I think it's an awesome opportunity for them to learn perhaps the new way of education in the future of this kind of remote-ish model. So I think, Erin, down the road, I think probably 3 years from now, we're going to see even a tougher time getting educators into the field. But to say if I've felt it thus far, I don't think so. But I think the key word is yet.
Okay, yeah, I keep thinking of how is everything going to change, and obviously personnel is a huge one.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And that was, it's always on our mind, right? As people retire and as our pool of future educators is low to begin with, things like this don't help. So.
Yeah, no, I work a job where I have all of our older employees retired during the shutdown.
Oh.
Because they're scared. They don't want to come back. It's retail.
Right.
But in the same sense, that the younger generation feel more comfortable online. So that's their comfort zone. So you never know. I mean.
But no, Erin, we haven't had any mass exodus in terms of retirements or bumping up their timelines at all based on this. So, but great question. And I'll keep you posted if I start to see those trends.
Good. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anything else, Amy, on this topic in terms of personnel, or other than that, that's all I have.
I actually have a question, and I'm not sure if this is appropriate to ask you here or put it on future policy PQ meetings. I have a question. I know in Scouts and wrestling and other organizations I've been with youth, it's always been a 2-on-1 relationship. So there's always an adult and two adults and one child or young adult in the room or on any discussion, whether it's email, etc. And I just want to know, you don't have to answer it now, but I want to know moving forward, because we have a lot of these online discussions one-on-one now with teachers and only kids. I think we should be challenged to think about this, because that's how, kind of bad things happen with adults and kids when it's one-on-one, getting, personal and etc. So am I being articulate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and Doug, I've been thinking the same thing, so that's a great question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I don't think we have an answer for it, right now. And it's, an important, I think, conversation to have, to think about it in this construct. But also, how do old paradigms and old constructs work in our new environment, right? And how do we still allow for this remote engagement in a tutoring session, right? I think that still needs to happen. I don't think we can say we can't have a tutoring session if there aren't two students available to be in it. You know what I mean? So it's that interesting conversation of how do we still move forward in this remote environment when those important, one-on-one conversations need to happen, and we can't always be in the room, right? So it's about, I think, honoring and trusting our employees, but also having checks and balances in place. So
We do have the record button.
I was going to say for Zoom, I mean, we have that option. There's also a lot of security features we can set. I know with Google Meets, there's a way to go back into the vault and get videos. I'd have to check with Zoom if there is a way to go back, and if something like that occurs, to be able to pull meetings. I'm not sure on that, but I can double check it so that we know if that's an option as well.
And I'm just bringing it up because I'm in the Catholic Church and Scouts, and where there's always two adults and to every conversation with a kid. So there's no grooming going on. There's no anything like that going on. So just thank you for, we don't have to discuss it now. You guys obviously are thinking about it. So thank you.
Yeah. A great point, Douglas. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions related to personnel? Just keep us informed, as I just want to continue to be informed about how our teachers are doing.
You bet.
That's the big thing.
I know.
I think it's, we think of our kids being stressed. I think the teachers being stressed. So
yeah, there's tremendous anxiety for sure.
Yeah, yep. I will say that Tracy and I hopped on a call with our GEA co-presidents late this afternoon just to give them a heads up about the conversation tonight at the meeting. And, they just said, thank you, really. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing our concerns as a staff group. And it matters, right? So I even think this message of, Mikkel's lovely words of we're not ready yet will ring really true to our staff. And I think it sends a great message of, again, collaboration, that we're listening, that there's a lot of dynamics at play in order to make this work. And we are vulnerable enough to say we're not ready yet. So I think that will go a long way.
I agree. I think honesty and transparency are the most important things that we can do. Our community respects it. And I'm really glad that you guys didn't put on a face and pretend. It really makes, I have a lot of trust just because you did that. That you were willing to not pretend with their lives of our children and our staff and our community. So thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Sorry, shifting pages. I'm not accepting that. Let's see. All right, topics for, well, we were kind of doing that a little bit, but topics for future committee meetings or board meetings. We were kind of doing that a little bit, but just in case there are any others.
I think I mentioned this either last meeting or at a previous meeting. Again, time is a construct right now. I would like to have an opportunity to look at the policy around SROs, not in August because I know there's a lot going on, but September I think would be an ideal time just to open up that conversation and kind of look at that language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if I'm out of place, but I just wanted to look up one of the things that I know, and I know there's 2 Grays Lake Central students that are dealing with this right now, but because Great Lakes is currently all enlisted, is rescinded to base, it includes some Grays Lake families who, you know, they're Navy officers, but they live here, and it means that kids have parents that are stuck at Grays Lake, and they're not allowed to, they're very restricted at how many times they can leave. And so that's just something to think about. It just popped in my head today because one of my friends was posting about missing her family. So, you know, that's something to consider.
Can you describe that a little bit more, Erin?
Okay, so when COVID happened, Great Lakes said, if you're not living on base, you have to move to base.
Okay, got it.
So it means that if we have people that live in Grays Lake who work at the Naval because they are enlisted soldiers, or actually seamen, because Navy, and so it means that they are separated from their families, and the other parent is pretty much a single parent.
At home. I see, yeah. Yeah, I know some that were getting transfer orders and then they've been rescinded. Or not rescinded, they're postponed. Because they can't move right now.
Right. Yeah, but this is kids that have been trying to do school, and their dad, they get to see their dad once a month or something like that.
Mm. Okay.
So I just want to make sure that everybody was aware that was happening.
Yeah, we've always had a lot of families from Great Lakes here. Always.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Always.
And one of the families is 2 kids. I've known Carl since 4th grade. So.
Thanks for sharing that, Erin.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Yeah. I know you guys are doing a great job, but just want to make you aware of that situation.
No, it's important to have it on radar. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Another topic, and this will probably be either for the 30th or just moving forward, if we can talk about how we can create the website, and I haven't been on the website lately, but for reopening so that it can be in other languages and kind of where we're at with that as well. I know at the time we had talked about that briefly at a previous meeting, but I just would like an update on it.
I got one thing. Can somebody get Jonathan Rams and a Grays Lake North shirt?
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Need some swag.
We all serve many masters, so.
I was waiting until someone would say something about it.
All right. Anything else? It's late, guys. Anything else? All right. It is, we're going to adjourn this meeting. It is 9:25. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Have a great night.
Great job.
Keep doing the great work you're doing.